Let's get this rolling. So I think today we're going to be working more on this white scar. I'm going to be picking out more and more details, and through that we should be able to start to bring the model into focus a little bit. A lot of times when you get a model in this stage, it's like certain parts of it are going to start to shine over others, but you just set back a little bit and start to focus on some different aspects, it'll start to come to life quite a bit easier. A couple areas here need to be touched up for sure. Let me find my mouse. There we go. There we go. Adjust this light real quick. That's a bit better. Alright. Oh, Blood Angel Nash, what up, what up? Good morning, sir. Let's see here. Just tidying up this little area here in the inner thigh. Got a little excited when I was painting his gasket, I suppose. How was your weekend? Danny M, good morning. I'm glad you like it. We're going to be doing I'm hoping to wrap it up so we can do the drawing for it here by the end of the week. I might hold off and do the drawing later in the month, depending on what interest is, but yeah, we didn't get a chance to do one last month with everything going on with this pandemic, but we'll get them out there. Nice, this could have been better. I miss the hockey. Yeah, I'm missing my jiu-jitsu, something fierce. I'm a little washed out again today. I'm trying to keep this thing from making me look super pale. So far, not so good. Let's just stick with what I can fix here. Oh, thank you, Danny. Hope everybody had enjoyable weekends. Danny, did I see a going live notification out of you yesterday? I was busy, but I thought I did. If so, what were you streaming? Nice has got some stuff arriving, hopefully today. 2 dragons from Reaper. Oh, that'll be sick. Good painting, that's sweet. I'm thinking we're going to be upgrading our camera equipment here soon this month. Just a couple weeks. I'm thinking about doing a kind of a standard metallic blade here. What do you think? Just regular metal, true metallic silver. Could look nice. Also, maybe, while I'm thinking about it, I should just do it. If I have it sitting here. do I even have it? Yeah, I have some. What were you painting, Dan? And Nash, what, excuse me, what dragons did you end up picking up? Here I'm going to do an old school build up. We're going to start with a very dark metallic here, this jet exhaust, and we'll maybe even darken it back more depending on, you know, flavor. But I like to mix opaque paints into these things. So we're going to take something like this. I'm just trying to track my silver or aluminum, like it's very, yeah, here it is, here's the aluminum. This is just a very silver, the Model Air. Let's see what we can't get going here with a wet blend. We'll start down here with our darker metallic. We'll build it up through here. It's still pretty darn dark, huh? Or shiny. Mix in some of the silver. Change here, but maybe it's just fooling my eyes. But maybe not, who knows? We got Doc Holliday in the building. We got Pixie showing up. Good morning, though, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Getting good use out of those emotes. Nice, nice. We're gonna mix something up here. I'm gonna add a little bit of just an opaque black to the old mixture here. Try to step on this shine a little bit. Oh, we got Clan Wolf. Good morning, good morning. How are you today, Clan Wolf? This ought to come across quite a bit darker now. Exhausted, oh no. That long a weekend, huh? That's tough. Trying to just get a little tonal shift here. It's hard. It's tough to maintain. There we go. Now we're starting to get a little shift. From there we can tidy up. Just a closing shift. Ooh. How late's a closing shift for you? Ooh, the old clopen. That'll ruin, that'll mess you up for a few days. I hate those. Oh wait, what's that? 8 months? 8 full months? Daniel, that first truly is a first. That was my first ever subscriber. What a mensch. Daniel, how are you today? It's been... what a long, windy road it's been, huh? Gotta figure something else out with this lamp. I'm doing alright, Daniel. You know, I detailed out the cloak a little bit more over the weekend. I had like 40 minutes to sit down and just paint with my finger for a little bit. Literally. And feather those blends. Got that good blend that looks right from all angles. It's no Instagram model, you know. What's that? Get out of there. Uh-oh. What's that? This is not going to come off, is it? Might be alright. Thank you, Daniel. You know, I'm holding up. Doing the work. Trying to apply these metallics in a proper way. Hope everybody's weekend was all right. No drama. I know how things have been lately. He assumed. How's the better brother doing? He assumed. He fired that shot. He's definitely the more cunning of the two of us. Careful. So the last thing we need to do is get a bunch of silver on the old cloak there. Let's see how that came out. Legible, I don't know, but done, perhaps. Pew pew pew. Who's firing shots? Daniel. Coming in hot with shots fired? Get like a nice subtle shift here. Now, if I do this right, I should be able to edge it and get a nice transition. But let's see if I can keep the brush steady enough. The important thing to remember when doing this on a sharp piece is just use the edge of the side of the brush as opposed to the tip of it, and it'll help. Now here, you don't have that luxury. Here you've got to actually just be technically precise, and that's another problem. It's hard to pull a straight line like this for as far as you have to. Daniel, coming from a 2D world, would probably excel at this. Now for me, I don't have the steady hand and the muscle memory. We're going to use this grip to its full potential here. Because you're wondering why it has that bar on it. This is why. And now one more. Now this is one of those ones on the edge, so we can sort of cheat. We'll let the brush do the job for us. Let the tool kind of do its job. You can crack these lines even finer just by having a lighter touch and changing the angle. Here we need it to pan a little bit up onto the edge, so we're a little heavier on the press, because you want it to read as being sharper a little bit further up. But that's good. Daniel's out of control. He's a mad lad. You gotta watch him. Now, as is always the case, you want to have your dark colors right beside your bright colors. So we're going to come back through, excuse me, and we're going to draw a really dark line right beside this really bright line. It'll do two things. It'll punch up the contrast. It will sharpen our line. Is that all? Is that everything? Might be everything. Fix the wonk in the line. That's a good part. Here I'm just gonna put some little chippy chips in here. Dark. Absolute mad lad. These little black chips in here, which will steal the shine away in certain areas. But more importantly, when you take the shininess away, you kind of, in some ways, embolden it in others. That makes sense. So this is just some black paint. Occasionally I might mix in a little bit of the metallic into it if I want to add some flecking back in, but here we're just stealing it away down the middle. Leave it there for a little bit and take it away here, so on and so forth up the blade. Just adds a little bit of little dynamic look to the sword. Everybody can do these. You can get as intricate as you like with the blades. Not a bad look. Veronis, good morning. I think that's good. I want to check. Let's see if there's any more of this thigh that needs cleaned up before I put this on here. I'm about ready to glue this buckle on. Just want to make sure we have that good coverage before I do. I won't have to come back in here and tidy anything up. I don't mind working on the buckle while it's assembled, but I'm sure not coming in and tidying up any of that leg. If that makes sense. Yeah, so we got to get everything above the knees. How was your weekend? Hope everything was well. Get some coffee here. I didn't have very much hobby time, but it was good nonetheless. Had a birthday, you know. Turned 34. So that's super exciting. Had that quarantine party, you know. Just tracking this highlighted edge here. I'll be going through and doing this everywhere else on the model, but just want to get it done down here where things can get weird. We're going to hit the bottom lip of this. Doc says he is old now. I'm a little bit old now. Comes naturally to all of us, I suppose. Okay, we're going to hit this lip here. Same technique as on the blade. We're just using the edge of the sword, or the edge of the sword, the edge of the brush. Doc says I'll be putting him in the retirement home shortly. Yeah. You should be careful, Doc. I've been sitting out here without proper, like, I've been waiting on someone to come make an attempt on my life for a couple weeks now. It's like going a little stir crazy without it. These hands are buy one get one free. Oh, Doc's running a 2-for-1 special over there. All right, how nice. How nice. I didn't know. I didn't realize I could go down to the 7-Eleven and catch everything you have to offer me for $7.99. That's nice. It's a bargain. This edge highlighting doesn't really read on the camera super well. I'm also being very subtle with it, but it is super important. Oh, it comes with a free nap. If you're just joining us, Doc Holliday's in here talking mad amount of smack. You know what we're gonna do here? Let's start the panel lining along with the edge highlighting. Oftentimes do these separate, but I think we're going to keep them together today. Let me scoop some paint. I typically do not water back my paints at all, but when I do my dark lining, or in this case, it'll be black lining, legitimate, because the nature of the colors we're working with. Tanlin 42 says Doc is going to get hit with the classic "Why are you hitting yourself?" if he keeps it on. For those of you not familiar with Doc Holliday, he has a bit of the hill giant in him. He's not a small lad. It won't help him in this case, I'll tell you that. Strawberry is now following. Well, thank you so much for the follow, and thank you even more for that name. Welcome on in. How are you this morning? We're just kind of bringing these armor panels into focus here with some dark lines. I am of the opinion that the line needs to be absolutely as small as possible, so I put them down and I kind of erase them. Try to be gentle with it. It's a complicated relationship I have with the dark lines. So you'll see me put them down and then take a wet brush and kind of wipe them back. That's my way of keeping them super subtle. But they still do their job. Let's see. It's an odd angle to paint at. I think it's its own skill painting on camera. Learning all these new ways to sit and contort your back. Strawberry says it's strawberry, but when I was little, I didn't know how to spell it, so I spelled it strawberry. But good morning. You know what? When you were little, you found out how to spell strawberry, so it was available. Which is a power all its own. Welcome on in. If you're a mini painter, what do you like to paint? Don't mind me. A lot of times you can just clean up when you make a mistake, but when you're painting over white, it's going to be known forever as a shadow's there. I would tidy that up, but it's going to be hidden underneath the buckle. Or is it? Let's just tidy it up anyway. Let's just clean it up. Oh, God! Strawberry says, "I'll Doc with the nod in." Strawberry says, "Not much of a mini painter, but I do ceramics, leatherworking, and clay charms." Oh, that's very cool. But a painter nonetheless. Yeah, painting with white acrylic is a bit of a bear. So I keep my handy cleanup brush on hand. My little side piece. Erase. Erase. Yeah, suffice to say, some things don't erase. We'll tidy it up with some white paint. I think that's the most important thing to remember. Like when you do your panel lining, you still have to, kind of like come back through and shade it again. Just tidy this up. Strawberry says acrylic are the one paint I'm bad at. Watercolor, though, is something I can do in my sleep. Oh, yeah? Yeah, watercolors are, I mean, such a traditional thing to work with. People have been killing it with watercolors for a long time. For those of you just joining today, this is the kind of thing we work on normally. It takes a long time to get to this point in the process, though, so, you know, we get there. This one is going to be a subscriber giveaway soon. Just bringing this boot out of the darkness. I like how the backpack came out, not gonna lie. I think that's pretty slick. But it's funny how even just a little bit of dark lining can take something that already looks good and bring it even more into focus. Uh-oh, one of those angle issues. Your fur texture is amazing. Looks quite realistic, or at least to me it does. Well, thank you. Fur is one thing a technique I've got kind of practiced up a bit. Her fur hat, in particular, I'm pretty happy with. This is a nice piece. Whoever wins, it'll obviously be Daniel. He says me when I sub. There you go, Danny. That's the right attitude. Actually, Daniel, not only was Daniel my first sub in this channel ever, he is also the first person to sub to me after my birthday. So we got that going for you too, Daniel. I know. That's because we're friends on Facebook, Daniel. You were like, happy birthday. Ren Momo, good morning. Welcome in. On this, our super chill April 6th stream. Let's see here. Should we start on some bone? We're at this point where I'm gonna get distracted. I'm just gonna start pulling things every which way as I see things that aren't completed. Excuse me. We're just gonna start jumping at them. Oh, little dumb bull. We're gonna do that. Dan's been super busy. Oh, yeah, you like that bust? That bust was going to get entered into Adepticon for their painting competition, but you know, some things came up. Some people are absolute wizards at painting skulls. I am not. But I'll show you my technique. I start with something a little bit dark, back in the dark areas. Not worried about full coverage here because that's pretty dark. I grab something a little bit more ochre. Feather that transition. Are we even on camera? What are we doing here? What are we calling rigged on? Oh, Red Bubble coming in with a sandwich. And then we're going to grab something a little more pale. Like just a little bit of yellow in our off-white here. Just going to rip that down like so. Actually, that's not a bad color to just whip back. Kind of thinking that'll look good the whole way. Made kind of a peachy flesh tone here. Weird. That's alright. A little too much ochre. Remember, says I was playing by the Illuminati to shut down the sales of the underground resistance movement in Adepticon. That's funny. So I used an ochre brown in there, and I don't like what it did to the colors, so I'm going to let that dry. I like this kind of purpley desaturated brown I have here. Let's try this one. Let's work through this. I'm going to pack this darker tone up in the eyes and whatnot anyway. And down here on the temples, we'll get a little bit of it because that should always be sunk on in. Down here along the sides of the teeth. Another thing in here, things like this are subject to change. What do we have here? Tactical Booty says Chris found out what my tablet issue was. Oh, perfect. I couldn't find anything like in the common issues threads that would make sense. I looked into that for quite a while. What ended up being the issue? I like this middle skull much better. And Momo says, oh yeah, also would like people's opinion on this. Oh yeah, share up. Start here in the back. We'll worry more and more about that as time goes on. Tactical says I have to have it plugged into my graphics card, but I can't have both my monitor and the tablet plugged in at the same time, so I'm getting an HDMI to DVI converter for the monitor, so that then you could have both plugged in at the same time. That's good. So you just had it connected to the motherboard and not the video card? Just brightening up some of these primary areas. Sort of drawing the starkness out of these highlights. It'll be pretty bright up there. At the tippy top. Probably the most frustrating part about these skulls are like how high up they are. They've got to be very bright, very vibrant, and they can't be sloppy because Everybody's going to see him up there. Alright, Renmomo, that feels like a lot of text, and I don't want to half read it, so give me just a moment to get tidied up here on these skulls. And then we will have a read. A proper read. Alright, Tyler says, yep, that's exactly it. Well, that'll do it. That would do it. It's always the easy things you skip out on. I worked on a laptop one time. Client said it wouldn't get on Wi-Fi, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Like everything's on correctly, but it just won't connect. And I take it back to one of my buddies. I worked on this thing for like half hour, 40 minutes. Take it to my buddy. He takes a look at it, turns the thing around. There's a switch, a physical switch on the thing. He throws the switch, boom, connects. I'm like, are you serious? Ugh, you learn the lesson one time. We'll be there forever. All right, Renmomo says, so people say Games Workshop is a good place to get people into the hobby, and you don't think so with how much you have to invest in GW products. If you want to play and if you want a variety, you would have to buy multiple sets, and that could be appealing to some people. I think that people shouldn't champion it as the go-to option like a lot of people do. I imagine some time needs to be taken. Tanlin says, I was just looking into Age of Sigmar, some fantasy minis that are more medieval style rather than, say, Age of Sigmar. Inks, good morning. Clan Wolf, yeah. Renmomo, are you saying, like, people just saying that 40K is the de facto game to get into? And using it as, like, the gateway into the miniature gaming community? If I'm reading it correctly? It's early, and I try not to jump to conclusions on these things. Oh, A Song of Fire and Ice. Sorry. ASO, not AOS. See, Renmomo, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's early. I'm prone to things like this. You know, Dark Sword Miniatures makes those models, Tanlin, and they're a spectacular company. They have, if you go to their website, I don't know if you're familiar with them as a standalone, but they make some of the best fantasy models I've ever painted. They're possibly crisp for pewter. Renmomo says, and yes, that's it. Okay, I have a whole spiel on that, Renmomo. I do not disagree at all with you in that respect. Daniel says, looks like Chuck Norris. There it is. You better watch yourself, Daniel. Yeah, everyone showing the love to Inks. Inks is such a wonderful member of our community. Such a kind and generous soul. How have you been, Jade? Robosh, good morning. Hank says, I've been good, been painting. I've been seeing you posting. Like, I try to post regularly. You've been putting my posts to shame, the regularity. Inks is a big fan of the night models. If you'd like to share up what you've been working on, Inks, I'm sure people will be interested to see. You know what, though? The fact that we laid down that initial coat of that kind of flesh color has added something a little different to that skull. So it'll stand out a bit differently from the other two. And I like that. For Bias, good morning. Who else do we get in here? We have just a couple more things to tidy up, and then I'm going to put his buckle on him. Let's tidy up this lower edge. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I enjoyed my, we threw like a little online chat with some of my friends for my birthday, so I could hang out and have a drink with everybody. That quarantine birthday style, you know. Thanks, I don't think I saw that you did Dead Man yet. Did I miss that one? Well, maybe I didn't. Maybe it's on me. Just tidying up these little rib vents here. I'm also gonna edge out this little breast piece here. This buckle's enormous, so I don't want to skip anything here. Shrek, hey, good morning. We were just, Renmo posited a question about them not understanding why people champion 40K as like the de facto let's get into hobby games. It is here's the deal, it is the most popular one. For a lot of years, I despised the rules, and so I started looking for alternatives, and I really fell in love with a lot of the alternative games. Privateer Press, for me, is one of the more fun companies to game under. I love their rules sets, and their models are a lot more my style. But yeah, for a lot of areas, though, they don't have the opportunity to experience these other games. And I think that tends to be what happens. That's a little bit of recency bias as well when it comes to why people jump to Games Workshop. You know, they're the one that everybody has exposure to. They're the one... I mean, the Space Marine is such an appealing model. You know, it's the one that started it all. And so you just have to understand that a little bit when you see why people are recommending it. All we're doing here is edge highlighting along each one of these little ribs. And it probably doesn't read, but your eyes can see it. Believe that. Okay. Let's get our little dental tool here and get our blue tack tidied up. We're going to connect the buckle. Dark Sword pewter. They're not. They're white metal, but yeah, they're what we would call pewter. But it's not like they're not leadened or anything. Shrek, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome on in. If you're a painter, we are very link friendly. I love to check out other artists' work. Draw so much inspiration. Inks has been super prolific lately, turning out all kinds of nice pieces. I'm always envious of people's capacity to sit down and do the work. I struggle with that. It's been one of the biggest reasons for why I wanted to start streaming, and it's been a factor in why I continue to stream, to be honest. The biggest reason for why I continue is, you know, I came in here to use it as a peer accountability tool. Like, hey, if I set a schedule, I'll stick to it with my painting. But it turns out I kind of stayed for the community, for all of you. Ramomu says, if Games Workshop just had like a mix and match kill team option, that would be killer, but that's too pro-consumer. talk about that a little bit, Ren Momo. Tamlin says, yeah, I just saw Pewter. I remember going down the rabbit hole reading up on what Pewter is, and they're actually Pewter versus whatever else that fun hour. I need to rethink how I spend my time. I jump down those rabbit holes too, but the thing is, when you don't know something, you gotta have that mindset. It doesn't matter if it's, what is a metal model actually being cast out of, or, if it's a political opinion, if it's, science, if it's anything. If you don't understand it, go read it up on what it is from somebody that does. Otherwise, I think that's a modern definition of illiterate, when you won't change your mind. So, no, I think you're doing the right thing, Hanlon. Those rabbit holes are very important. Danny M says, I got a mini finished on stream the other day when you saw me go live. Danny, if you want to share, please do. Shrek says, I'm a painter for profession. Oh, my word. Stuck at home like everybody else. Well, I am not a professional. I do this before I go to work. But it is some darn good therapy. I'm trying to learn non-metallic metals. Oh, got a little pollen on this from when I had the doors open last night. This is probably an example of the extent of my ability right now. It's still very work in progress on the non-metallics in here. I'm pretty happy with this piece here. This one is still rough. I like the fur. But yeah, Shrek, if you want to share up some of your pro work, we'll have a look. I love looking at art. But this is I've tried real hard, and now we get to take that idea and try to look at it into the next model. Danny M says, there you go. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Let's see this. Taylor says, do you work on a lot of busts? I've been trying to find a company that sells affordable busts that I could try my hand at. Happy ignorant people must be. Oh, I love those models. Those, what are they called? Stormcast Eternals. They are super cool to look at, for sure. Bear with me a moment. I have one. I don't know if anybody else has been having like miserable allergies here the past week or so, but mine have finally caught up to me. I was pretty sure I had her base. I just put this together, Danny. I thought this could be a fun one to paint. Her base must be over the side here. But I think I'm going to paint her up because I really want to practice the robes. I just got done like filing this out, this terrible mold line here. Alright, let's look at some professional work. Lord have mercy. Yeah. Understanding lights and volumes like that, I'd be trying. I don't have the technical capacity to push my highlights up to white yet. Oh, I love it. I don't have my Instagram on my my computer. Yeah, Danny, I think it's from the same kit. Right before the quarantines were starting, my local hobby shop was putting out a whole... Oh, you did a... I don't think this will translate. You did this guy up as Deathwatch. That's really cool. Just did a shoulder pad swap. That's really slick, Shrek. I love what you did with Artemis. That is very cool. I don't think... Oh, here we go. I gotta grab clean glue. Well, conversion was done for you. That's still cool, though. It was probably exciting to do something a little bit different with that model. Bear with. Yeah, I really liked it. You know, when I picked it up to paint here, my first thought was, I mean, I get it, he's not the most playable, but man, he is slick looking. Do you have any dark lining secrets there, Shrek? I always tend to lose this fight. Get wrapped up in it for so long. Some painters I've seen are super disciplined with it, and they do it regularly throughout the process instead of all at one time. I'm a little jealous of that. Their discipline. Shrek says smile's really cool. The last episode of Stratus makes me want to paint more Space Marines at the moment. I love me some Space Marines. I painted some Imperial Fists a while back, but not to like a super high standard or anything. Momo says, I have not, honestly, been living under a rock here the past few days. I think it started last week, right? Somebody told me about it on Friday, and I just never got around to it. And I saw a post on Reddit this morning while I was waiting on my coffee to brew. Somebody was super impressed with the way that they depicted a force shield or a psychic force field. And I saw that little snippet of the bolter fire getting blocked. It's literally one guy. I'm gonna have to watch it. I said what I saw looked so cool, and so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to watch it. Danny says I'm struggling with non-metallic badly. Danny, non-metallic is a struggle for me because it takes so like a greater understanding of volumes and light sources before you can even start getting into it. And then once you start to grasp that, then you can start to consciously work at it. Otherwise, all you're doing is trying to replicate a design somebody's done, and that's fine too. But I think understanding why the light works the way that it works in a given situation is more important. Why won't paint come off of my brush? What is happening? We need new paint. Shrek says best animated series for 40K. Well, that's high praise. How did this come off? What have we done here? Just rip this edge here. Friend Momo says, and don't start with the non-metallic if you're just starting. Here's the deal. I think for me, a common misconception is that true metallic is easy to paint. I think it just doesn't require the greater understanding to get into. Like, you can get into true metallics pretty easily. You can just plaster them down. Once you have that understanding of like those volumes, they'll be better. I personally like both, but I think when you're starting out, it does take quite a bit more to actually get into true metallics or non-metallics correctly. You have a higher initial ceiling, if that makes sense. This won't work. We're bringing that elusive actual white paint. So far it's only been gray. There it is. Persistence. It's going to take a lot to get rocking here, but get some proper flow going on this paint without like blowing it out. But it will look nice. I'm just realizing it's probably very hard to see that. I've said it a couple times here, but as the month goes on and the Patreon has gone the way that it's been going, I'll be purchasing or investing in some camera gear very likely here the week of the 13th. But just have to see the way things go here, the state of the country a little bit. I don't want to use this too much on the boots. I don't trust it. I tend to try to make the boots just disappear a little bit. It's only 6:40. Look out. Having a pretty good day. Where's the music? There it is. Zarvin, show off. How's it going? Good morning. How are you today? Let's go back to... see what this sounds like. Try and smooth this blend here on the kneecap. Things got kind of muddled when I was trying to work on that dark line, but easy come, easy go. Shrek says, looks like you're going to pin this dryad head onto the captain. Oh, from what is on your desk. I should. Ray would be so miffed. Give us just a second. I'll show you what's going on that dryad. That did not have enough paint. That little bitty shine. That's what it's about. This stupid web camera does not have the capacity to see these tonal shifts in the white. Yeah, so the dryad is for Drycha. I just started sketching in her volumes. She's ready to go in there. I'm going to try to freehand up some wood grain. I saw somebody do that and I thought it was a cool idea. But yeah, we got that. Trying to work on some black. We'll see how that goes. We're freehanding some verdigris. And what else are we working on here? I'll blend up Chuck Dogwood's cloak. We got the leathers going pretty nicely here. The green needs a couple hours of work yet. Don't worry about that. Oh, and Ren Momo, if you haven't checked out Privateer Press has a game called Riot Quest. It's a really nice all-in-one box game that you can. It has you can buy into it quite a bit more if you'd like to. So that might be something to look up if you're looking for something that you can still buy nice models to get into a good game, but not have to have that initial investment. And another nice thing with Riot Quest is it's designed, you know, that game has a ton of fantasy and a ton of steampunk style heroes in it. And what they've done is they've done like a futuristic pull of heroes throughout all the time periods. And they've brought them into one game, so you have this beautiful diversity of models to choose from and looks to go with. Shrek says, nice projects. Well, thank you. Yeah, we're super hobby in here, but it's all about the path. Danny M sharing up a nice ultramarine. These are suppressors, right? I just paint them. It's just painting. This I was painting up for the Privateer Press competition at Adepticon before it got canceled, and so she's kind of been set aside for now. This I am painting up as a subscriber giveaway for the channel. Last month it was, well, I guess this was for last month. It just, with everything that happened in the world, we didn't get to painting it up and getting it done. This is the game that I play, Riot Quest. There's a bunch of these little heroes that I'm working on. Here's another one. I haven't even got her really to any state yet, but they play in the same game. It's like a board game. I super enjoy it. The Marines are a commission for a local gamer. And Drycha here is a commission for a viewer here on Twitch. This gentleman is commissioned for another artist on Twitch. And I have, where is, oh, I have another commission to share. Super excited about. Where did you go? Oh, buddy. Go too far. We have, this is also a commission for a Twitch viewer that we're working on. The red is super rough right now, but I've gone for that classic, why am I drawing a blank? Alpha Legion armor. Shrek says, yeah, every game on Earth. Those are our current projects. But I tend to play War Machine and Hordes myself. This is another rough working job. I just started base coating up this guy, and he's got a whole squad with him. But to the do you play every single game? I don't have the time to play any of these games really. Even though I would say that I play War Machine and Hordes, it's the game that I paint that I know the rules the most. I rarely get together with people to play. It's just the state of life right now. That's why I enjoy painting so much. It's always there for me. It's an interceptor. Thank you, Danny. Momo says, just looked at it, not my thing. That's fair. But you could consider the fact that is that this kind of game style, size-wise, that is what you're after? Because there are other ones. Corvus Belli makes a game like that called, oh, it starts with an A. I'm going to forget what it's called. If somebody remembers, please help me out. Ren Momo says, I don't go with anything fantasy. I like sci-fi and post-apocalyptic stuff. Okay. Daniel says, starting when I did, I missed all the good models. Shrek says, I love that game. Unfortunately, it went down in terms of player count since Mark III. Absolutely. Ren Momo is also familiar with it. Yeah, Astratus, something like that. But that's not very apocalyptic or sci-fi. So sadly, the game that is closest to what you like isn't what you like. I haven't been able to go to play with strangers very much, so for me it's just my social group, and it's a game that they're into, so that's it. See if we can't pick out these edges. Nope. Nope. Momo says, thing is, I like games with a lot of vehicles, either mechs, cars, tanks, or whatever, so Gaslands is pretty much my game. Well, there you go. See, I'm in the opposite camp. I tend to like the fantasy stuff. I like steampunk too, like the diesel punk and whatnot has always been cool to me. Let's pick out these little fingers here. Kind of Crazy how an edge highlight can make it look like your blends are so much tighter than they are. I should maybe stop relying on that. Shrek, have you been working on anything fun since your quarantine began? I don't think I paid attention to when your projects were posted. Uh-oh. This is not ideal. Underworld. That's pretty cool. Why did that deposit just so much paint? What happened? Losing the dilution war here. Play Underworlds and Necromunda in my local club. I finished the Ghosts and I'm about to start Beastman. I'm sorry that I picked a color scheme that is showing for crap on Twitch here. I will get everybody a photo of our efforts here. Musty Painted, good morning. How are you? I 40k Drakari, 2k points. I haven't touched in a year as well. The minis are awesome. Those minis are awesome. think if I was going to get into 40K, I'd play Tau. That thought has been crossing my mind more and more lately. I've talked about that a little bit. My one friend has been getting back into the game pretty heavily, and see if we can get this to pop a little bit more. Push it out to the edge. Okay, was really good. Thank you, Shark. My red game is far more advanced than my white game, as of current. Momo says, watch the 3,000 spent on Tiny Plastic Soldiers video and you'll see what I mean, and no, that's 3,000 is not for one guy. What are we talking about here? Musty says, I'm good, just debasing models so I can build bases and get all my chaos ready to paint. There you go. I like to do my bases all at one time if I can. With edge highlighting and dark lining, I think the ticket is just to be persistent. You know, go slow, be gentle, whatever, but be persistent with that gentle brush stroke, because you don't want to try to get in a hurry and ruin the work you've done. Shatter that effect. Shrek says white is not an easy color. You know, I made a deal with myself some months ago, actually based off of the, not to say ramblings, but mindset of another painter, Justin the Armed Painter. He has AMP Services on Twitch if you're looking for an incredible person to follow. He was going on to do a spiel about, you know, hobby fears and why people have some models that they'll buy and just let them sit on a shelf, and he talked about a particular model that he wanted to paint for his Ultramarines that he just never did, and then he had moved on from the different army, and he's like, that model still sits on a shelf. He's like, it never got to live its hobby life. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, he's right. I've never painted a bust before. I've never painted I've always avoided skin tones. I don't paint white or black or any of these colors that truly just because they're challenging. And so I bought this bust, and I mixed up some skin tones, and I started working on like a light source and building it up and trying to be more painterly with the style as opposed to crisp and fine. And I was like, okay, so it's not that big and not that scary. You can paint skin tones. Just practice. This is my first shot at it, so I got something a little bit bigger, like you can see his scale. He's not finished. I didn't redefine his shadows, but it gave me the courage. It gave me the confidence to paint some skin tones. Aaron J. Bang with a host. Good morning, Aaron. How are you today? So we painted the skin tone, and that was helpful. And then, what was the next thing we did? I hadn't painted... Wouldn't work with different colors. You know, we wouldn't work with yellow. I don't have a yellow example on my desk, but we painted some Imperial Fists. And then now I'm going to start practicing black. We're practicing white. Colors that people fear. Red. That's how my red game got to where it is. Fur. Working on furs. It's all a matter of, I don't know, confidence, mindset. Thank you for the hosts, everybody. Those are super helpful. I think we'll be good through the next 30 minutes. We finished blocking this color in here. I believe those are the only two spots. Shrek says motivation and fears are an interesting subject on many paintings. Solution is often to just jump the cliff. Yeah, get those feet in there first. Non-metallic metal, you know, it's a scary thing, and I think there are certain things that take an amount of understanding before you can actually start to do them. Like I was saying earlier with the non-metallics, and I'm not there yet. It's just getting to a point where you have an understanding to the degree that is necessary to start with them. I think a lot of painting is simply a technique, and techniques just take time and practice. Just jump into it, do the technique, you'll be fine. And I think that is exemplified in just the fact that if you see somebody doing something interesting and you see how they do it, you can replicate it. And I think that that's good. You should understand that you can replicate things. But you also need to remind yourself to take the time to understand why they made the decisions that they made so that you can make them for yourself in the future. If that makes sense. Had a lot of paint to eat today, but let's see if we can't trim this shoulder out. I'm actually thinking I don't have anything to really share, like for our efforts today, so maybe we'll actually detail out this shoulder. Because otherwise I won't have anything to show for today's progress. Yeah, Shrek, in August of 2018 I started painting, and it has been, like I said earlier, just some good therapy ever since then to stick with. Growing, learning, trying new techniques. Like I said about techniques, everybody, it's just time. Look at a technique somebody's applying and think, oh, that's going to be a cool tool to put in the old box and break out and use at different times, and just do it. Just do that. Aaron J. Banks says, what up? Doing okay. Had a rough 24. Streaming PC died last night, so stream tonight on tablet. Not the best. Also, I can constantly wonder why I made the decisions I made, as far as like the drama, or to use the tablet, or while streaming. Hope everything's all right now. There it is. Oh, just overall life, etc., etc. Kidding you. You mentioned watching someone to try to understand why they made the decisions that they made. Oh, I gotcha. I'm sorry. You know, for me, we're still trying to get my brain operating today. Here's a question for anybody that's been painting for any period of time. What is a technique that you wish you'd started learning sooner? Blending? Blending's a big one for me, Aaron. I was listening to a pro painter, Aaron Lovejoy, and he was talking about going and doing all these trainings, and like people would bring him out and say like, hey, we want you to teach us like advanced object source lighting. We want you to come do like do one of those seminars for us. He'd be like, yeah, absolutely, guys, I'll come do that. And he gets out there, he's like, you guys don't need advanced OSL, you need to learn how to paint. It's like, man. And he's like, you need to learn how to wet blend, you need to learn how to, and he listed off like a couple of things. He's like wet blending and layering and just like how to do the fundamentals. He's like, oh, OSL's so easy. He's like, it's a finishing technique, but you have to have the foundation or it doesn't work. I was like, listen, I'm going to take that to heart. I wasn't involved in the OSL training. I was just a viewer of him saying it. So all my models have blends in them, and I try to stick with it, and it gets better every time. But then it's every color. Every color wants to throw you for a different kind of loop. Shrek says, hyper-realistic non-metallic metal. The Land Studio, he does some mind-blowing. I'm far from doing that at the moment. You wish you had started with that sooner? Yeah, I like, I've been working on my wet blends. That's been my thing. But I have so many techniques I need to learn. Lives on another planet. It's just him and Karel Kanev out there. They're not of this planet. bring these pinks in here. It took me so long to start to get to the point where I could understand light volumes to the degree that was necessary to even start certain blends. And then it took me even longer to understand the color theory around like why you could, like your color selection to do like certain things like non-metallics. And my non-metallic work is super rough. From a hyper-realistic standpoint, we're not there. It definitely is a cartoony look for the thing, but as it was said to me 10 years ago, I would be tearing it up with a non-metallic. Aaron says, well, also, I think a lot of those techniques kind of depend on what kind of painting you want to do. Like most army level painting requires a lot of OSL or non-metallic. Like you're not going to do non-metallic on every, say, Astra Militarum Guardsman or OSL on every las gun. Aaron says, but display pieces are one-off mini, and that's a new situation. That's funny. It's an interesting subject, Aaron. Danny says, Ren Momo, I can't find that video. Let's see what we can find here, Danny, at the end of the stream. We need... Let's see what we can't destroy here. Sorry, everybody, I gotta dial in the focus here. Crazy how dark lining brings something into focus. Huh. I have to fix this little portion right up here, but yeah, we'll let that dry. We'll tidy it up. I know Shrek says, sure. I know a guy that painted a whole army of Custodes in non-metallic. He's mad now, lives nude in the mountains. Yes, but he has those Custodes. He's up there all Ben Kenobi. I haven't heard that name. Or Obi-Wan. He's like, I haven't heard that name in many years. Like, what? Yeah, whole army of custodians like 20. My whole thing when I paint a model is I paint everything the same. I just stop detailing at a certain point. That's probably just my naive nature. Mostly dried out here. Let's see what we can get. I think we should do some advanced highlighting or just trim this thing out. I don't think this is a piece we can take the time to like non-metallic this edge. We can work some blends on it a little bit, I think. That old man's just a crazy old hermit. No, the droids belong to us now. In the morning, I want to take them down to the Tashi station and have their memories wiped. Oh, man. See what we can't accomplish here. Try persistent second coat here. RJ Bang says, well, time for me to retire for the rest of the evening. Nomadic, keep it clear and pure in the Berg, bro. Later to the awesome sauce chat peeps as well. Danny Lupu the Mad. Did I miss Lupu? Lupu says the internet has all the resources. After that, it's just practice. That's true. That's true. Shrek says many socials make some good tutorials on YouTube for non-metallic blending and other stuff. He's French, but made some great videos for the English version. Hey, if you want to link those up, that'd be pretty cool. Denny M says, Badu. Something to check out. Lupu says, I've yet to try non-metallic, but I have to say it seems hard as hell to get right. Well, it is definitely one of those techniques that, I'll save this for later. Ooh, and purple. How about it? Something I can I can immediately take advantage of because I'm working on some purple on Drycha. But yeah, non-metallic is definitely a technique that looks wrong right up until the moment where it looks right. That's for sure the case. I do. I agree, Lupu. It is my struggle is understanding that, and then the next thing, once you start to get that down, it turns into a whole different question of how bold to be with the light. It's just like putting contrast on a model. You know, the more qualified you are with it, the more comfortable you are, the more bold you'll be. That's not starting to look. It's not looking too bad for a shoulder pad. Strick says a good thing to understand it is to Google metal tubes, ball surfaces, different shapes, and see how they can apply to your painting. Yeah. I keep hearing people say these things, but my actual practice has not been to that extent yet. Well, we have a few minutes here before we're done. Let's try to highlight this again. Lupus says, the best advice I've gotten is to shine a light on it to take a picture and then grayscale the photo while pushing contrast to its fullest. Lupu, I think that is absolutely the right thing to do at a lower level of understanding. Like, that's where I'm at, to hit the light volumes and the shadows. What Shrek is talking about is once you start to master that and you have that down, now how do we go to that next step? And that's looking at real world, super shiny, different textured objects in that lighting. So instead of looking at your model in that case, you would grab, like, okay, so what would an actual piece of steel look like this in those super contrasted, maybe studio style lighting scenarios? Like, how do we start to incorporate environmental aspects into these things? So on. It's just the next thing. Oh goodness. Oh yeah, we did. Did I just spike that? That'll be a bummer. Oh, we got lucky. That moment when you almost spike your double zero. It'll bum you out. This whole freaking foot's gonna get redone. So we're going to be wrapping up here in the next 3 to 5 minutes. I hope everybody had a good morning. I don't know what time it is for everybody where they're at, but for me, we're rounding out 7:30 a.m. From here, I'm off to work. Masked up, you know. What an interesting time to live. Coverage down here on this red. Fix yourself. There we go. Oh goodness. Oh God. About to drop stuff everywhere here. We're gonna be okay. Dav says, what's up, Chris? White Car Dude is coming out good. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, we're starting to hit that point where things are either coming out or not. I'm not going to do too craziness here. We are going to add a couple little blends. Let me see if we can't feather these out just a little bit. Let's see here. Draw this line. Sorry if this is not tracking on camera. I'm just trying to be quick here. That seems okay. Shrek says it's calm these days. Really calm. I live in the city center and feel like I'm on the countryside. I live real rurally, and I hear you. Even around here it's quiet. I imagine the contrast from where you're at is exceptional. Okay. Oh, there we go. Oops. That looks bad. I just think it wasn't intentional. Well, Shrek, I'm glad you stopped in here today. It was nice to meet and chat. Everybody else that's been in here before, Lupu, Daff, you know, people that were on and chatting earlier, Inks, you know, much love to you guys always. Guys and gals. It's one big learning process for me. Pump Patty Pump Her says that beat is sweet as hell. So, these are, what is this called? Midwest Diner. From it's by Frock, F-R-O-O-K. No, I don't have any of that set up. We barely paint in here. I don't have any commands. I am sorry. This is from Epidemic Sound. It is a paid service for royalty-free music. Try to go with the laid-back beats. Well, yes, gotta find the good in everything. Doing it anyway, right? Okay, let's get the brushes over here. Let's see who is online. Yeah, F-R-O-O-K is the person who did it in Midwest Diner, D-I-N-E-R. Pump Patty. Let's see who we have online that we can hop into and support. Oh, Daniel's on. Well, 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 Daniel. Well, 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 indeed. We've got a hype train going. Let's go see what Daniel's up to. /R8ID. Well, Shrek, I'm glad that that I could entertain a little while you're working. Hopefully your day goes well. When I get on my phone here, I'll give everything a like and follow. But yeah, Danny, have a good day. I'm glad to see the progress you're making on that Custodes, the Age of Sigmar, really, the Stormcast. That Ultramarine looks pretty cool. And yeah, it's Monday, another week in these strange times. If anybody here that's a subscriber doesn't have the Discord, please hit me up. I'll get you into the Discord where we go over model critique, things of that nature. Been trying to do that a little more since I, recently started it up. But yeah, let's go check out Daniel. Looks like he's got a hype train going, and catch everybody on throughout the day. All right. When we found it, thanks, bro. Gotcha. All right, let's go.